Stellar Life, mission log number 239.
Be aware of where your money is at, what it's doing for you. Be aware even how you're making money. When you have a business, right? You may have an accountant, you may have a bookkeeper, and you have this whole team assembled. But be part of that team. Sit on that same side of the table so that you can understand exactly what's happening to your money. Because the stress happens when there is an unknown. So when we spend a little bit of time getting educated and being part of the dialogue, all that will start alleviating stress.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hey, welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. My guest today is a lovely lady that I met at a Roger Love event. Roger Love is a celebrity vocal coach, and we were in his mastermind together, learning how to refine our stories and our speeches and all that good stuff. And when I watched Claudia share her story on stage, I was immediately drawn to her because of how beautifully and eloquently she shared her story and how interesting she was. And I also find her to be very beautiful from the inside out, and her mission in the world to help educate people with money is really beautiful. She is a wealth manager. She empowers and educates her clients to elevate their money stories and gain confidence. She uncomplicates the money game and help her community eliminate anxiety, make peace with money, and create massive shifts in their lives. You will definitely enjoy this interview and learn a lot and hopefully create that massive shift for yourself as well. And now, without further ado, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
Hey, Claudia, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Orion. It's amazing to be with you.
I'm sure this conversation is going to be amazing. Every time I speak with you, it's just so beautiful and so uplifting. And you're such a good storyteller on top of that. So I believe that everybody who is listening, they're in for a treat now.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. You are so kind.
So before we begin, why don't you share a little bit about how did you discover your passion?
That is an amazing lead-in into our topic today, Orion. And for me, passion and purpose doesn't always have to be this grand thing. And sometimes by simply doing something that we feel a nudge, where we feel, this is going to be something where I can have an impact, one person at a time, one situation at a time. Sometimes it leads to the bigger and better things. And that's essentially something that happened to me very early on in my first industry and now in my second career as well.
So what happened in the first industry? What happened in the second industry? Was there a moment that was your catalyst for change?
Yeah, and my first career was managing hotels around the world. And talk about passion. My passion was travel and experiencing different cultures and living in different countries. And when you're young, those passions are they're not as deep yet, or purposes. They're more, okay, let me see how I can have fun, right? And when we get older, we actually notice that is actually the basis and foundation for a good life, is to, whatever we do, approach it with fun and adventure and a sense of curiosity. And that was my first career for many, many years, traveled the world and really learned to understand the relationship business and how to make a difference with simple things in people's lives. And later on, when we moved to the United States, that's exactly how I changed my career. And I said, how can I now change people's lives? And wealth management essentially fell into my lap, Orion. But I fell in love with it because I knew that I have a chance to be different, to make a difference in my clients' lives and also in my own life and my daughter's lives. And bit by bit, just fell in love with the fact that, by approaching this the right way and from a purpose and passion perspective, and also from a values-based perspective, that this career is actually something very beautiful.
I think you downplay the achievement of what you achieved because you did something. Can you share like a little bit more about what you did so people will grasp the bigness of it?
Okay, so in my early stages of my career, I just always like to stretch the comfort zone and do things that I have never done before and just have courage. And I think courage is sometimes a little easier when we're younger.
Oh, yeah.
Because the fear doesn't kick in yet and the overthinking doesn't kick in.
Yeah.
And in my career in hotel management, I had the choice to stay in Europe or to move to the Middle East. And I actually decided to move to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates and became one of the youngest female executives managing a 5-star hotel. I'm managing a division of a 5-star hotel. And it really shaped my life going forward. Not only looking back now, right? I was in touch with a lot of high net worth individuals that stayed with our resort. And it helped me understand, believe it or not, my career now, because I interacted with high net worth individuals. I knew very successful individuals, values-driven individuals. And I kind of figured, what's important to them. And they're people just like everybody else, right? And so that was kind of my journey in hotels. And since I became a wealth manager, this is also a very male-dominated industry, finance around the world. And
yeah,
I just managed to make a mark for myself. And I, in 2014, started my own wealth management practice. And just knowing that I wanted to leave a footprint in the sand, and I also knew how I wanted to work with my clients, and that I always wanted to do right by them and not be dictated by large companies' profit margins, which still has that negative connotation. And we'll talk a little bit, Orion, how we can actually make a profit something beautiful as well. And so I had my own company, and I recently merged with a slightly larger independent wealth management firm. And just, got some awards along the way and
just a few awards along the way. Yeah, by the way.
So,
I know this is the difference between interviewing a successful man to a successful woman. Successful men, like men don't have problem to brag, but I think we women, sometimes we have problem to brag, and I think it's okay to brag. And I think it's inspiring. But what you didn't do, if you talk about gender, many times, women have those limiting beliefs. I am a woman in a man's world. That's limiting belief number 1. Women are not good with money. Limiting belief number 2.
That's a very limiting belief. Mm-hmm.
And it's not even our beliefs. It's this older generation. It's the collective consciousness. I mean, even if you look at the government, like how many women are there? And I think it's only because of limiting beliefs.
You are absolutely right.
And also, you didn't let the limiting belief of age, because you were so young yet so successful. You didn't allow yourself to have the limiting belief of, I am too young for this. My gender is not right for that. We always come up with excuses. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm too old. I'm too this and too that. And you just didn't have it, which is extraordinary.
Thank you, Orion. And if we can relay something to your audience, is limiting beliefs are deeply buried. Sometimes we don't even know they're there until something shows up and a blockage shows up. And I'm like, why am I not further along, right? What's holding me back? And many times, and you're absolutely right, in money, in careers, there are always excuses. And sometimes these excuses date back to something somebody else programmed into us.
Yes.
Between 0 and 7. So to all the parents and moms out there, it's critically important what we say to our young people and our children, because 0 to 7, we're just absorbing, right? We don't have the willpower yet. And so sometimes what I do with my community is take them back to, how were you raised around money? So if we want to bring this back to the money stories, what was said between the ages of 0 and 7 or 0 and 10? How were your parents around money? And what types of beliefs were talked about around the dinner table? And it is so true, Ryan, that they do pop up later on in life when it's like, well, yeah, I'm a girl, right? How can I be good with money? And that's just definitely a limiting belief we can just take out of our system.
Yeah.
Basically reboot and upgrade the software.
Yeah. One of my limiting beliefs as a young person was me versus them, because I had a very poor upbringing, and our neighbors' houses were beautiful villas. And we were like this beautiful street, just our house with like the old house. And we were so poor, and I felt so different. It was always me and them. And of course now I guess I'm them in a way.
Yeah.
But I had limiting beliefs about wealth and what rich people are like, and my worthiness of even hanging out near rich people. It took a while to get over that.
And it's such a breakthrough when you finally do, and not compare and not prejudge and not have opinions, right, about people and situations. And when we really look at ourselves closely, and we can say, when I look at someone that's further ahead, then all that means to me, Orion, is that they've walked the walk and that it's possible. So then what I can do is say, if it's possible for them, somebody has already done it, then I can do this too. And I think that's been sort of a motto in my life too, to say you always look to people that inspire you, that do right by other people, that are this category 1 win-win personalities, right? And you say, what steps do I need to take to be like that and to achieve? And as women, it's critically important that we don't look at an industry, let's say, and there are a lot of industries where still you have more men than women, but that should never be an obstacle. If you have a passion for something, it doesn't matter which career it is, what type of reputation the career has in terms of, oh yeah, you have to be a guy to be in science, or you have to be a guy to be in finance or engineering, right? No. Us women have the same brain capability, and we can do this. So absolutely time to just take those limiting beliefs out.
Yeah. So you were mentioning that when you were working in that 5-star hotel, you were rubbing shoulder with high net worth individuals. And you said, I've learned what is important to them. What did you find in a way of their thinking? And what did you find in the way of their values?
Well, you said something earlier, which it struck a chord when you said you compared. It's like me versus them. And it's very easy when we're young and we're not quite yet there where we are now, right? And the wealthy individuals that I had the pleasure of meeting, they were very much of that us mentality. They weren't, oh, I'm this and you are just that. And I'm sure they exist, but maybe that's not the people that I would want to hang out with.
No.
But it's very inclusive and it's very abundant. And this is why this whole topic of abundance and empowering, especially women, Orion, to stretch the comfort zones and to live an abundant, purpose-driven life is so important to me. Because when I look at those mentors and those individuals I was so blessed to come across, they lived a very abundant life. And they also didn't sacrifice happiness, joy, and abundance for just making profits. For them, money was more than this piece of paper and maybe taking advantage of people to get to their profits. That wasn't the topic. And maybe those are just the individuals I choose to remember now. I'm sure I came across a fair share of others too that made money different ways and that they're probably not proud of right now. But these are people that are that were my role models. And I think the lesson we need to learn is that it's really up to us. It's always a choice. And we have the choice to either live in scarcity or abundance. We have a choice to have fear or love.
Mm.
And when given the choice, Orion, I am choosing love over fear. I'm choosing abundance over scarcity. And that's been a journey for me, because just like you, I grew up in very humble upbringings, and I had to work very much on upgrading my softwares from the scarcity and there's never enough to, no, this is an abundant universe. And it's a choice.
It is. I think what money does, it's almost like a magnifying glass to one's internal world. So if you are a good-hearted person and you have good values and you receive that money and you work hard for it and you make it, then you'll just be a really good person with a lot of money. And a good person plus lots of money means lots of help to the world. You can employ people. You can help. You can do charity. You can do so much good in the world. And I think a person who has, a bad character and receives a lot of money will just magnify him like a magnifying glass. So it will magnify the good or it will magnify the bad.
Absolutely. And you hit such a good point, Orion. And that was one of the motivators for me to start Afflowent, which is a community of women that want to live an abundant, affluent, and joyful life with money. Because I think it's all too easy to go into opinions and judgments, and we look at the people that made money the wrong way, right? Where money magnified maybe some of the bad traits.
Right.
And then we associate money or profits with, this is going to be bad, right?
Or it's not spiritual to be wealthy.
It's not spiritual. Exactly. And
rich people are mean.
Yep. These are all preconceived notions, right? Mm-hmm. These are opinions we formed over a lifespan of looking at people who may have done the wrong thing. And trust me, I'm in an industry where, we are tasked to make people profits. And trust me, I've done this for 20 years now, and I'm pretty good at that. But the task now for me has become that we live in a different world. We don't live in a world anymore, Orion, where it's just about the profit and just about the money. And it doesn't matter how you get to that. Like, what did you have to do to make this profit, right? No, we live in a world that's much more evolved now. And so the beautiful thing is that we can absolutely align our passions and purpose with profits. And what a beautiful thing would this be when we can change our paradigm and say, profit doesn't have to be a bad thing anymore. Money magnifies my character. And if I'm a heartfelt, wholehearted person, if I have good values, right, then I can absolutely live in abundance. But I can also learn how to manage my money so that profit becomes something I can be proud of, that leads me to joy, that leads me to abundance. And as you were saying, that leads me to making people better, to making the world a better place. And that's my mission with Afflowent and my financial empowerment community now, to really change the dialogue and to change this paradigm from bad to good.
Yes. Amen to that.
Oh.
Yeah. When we have conflicting beliefs in our brain, so we have the belief, oh, rich people are bad. And then the other belief, I really want to be rich. It will not happen because you're going to stop yourself. You're going to keep stopping yourself. You can't have those two conflicting beliefs at one time and expect yourself to move forward. So we really need to clean the mindset. If I look inside and I find out that one of my core beliefs is our rich people are bad, then I need to give my brain so much proof to prove to myself that it is the opposite. Or just go and hang out with wealthy people who are so kind and loving and do charities and bring so much beauty to the world. And then I'll change my core belief. And then I can focus on, I want to be rich because rich people are good. And I want to be a good person. We all want to be good boys and girls. We've been taught to be good boys and girls. So if rich people are good and I want to be a good girl or a good woman, then it aligns and then I can move forward.
It absolutely does. And I love how you just said this. It's so true. It's all perspective. Whatever I want to find in the world, I can find it. If I'd like to find rich people that made profits by taking advantage of, third world countries and having horrible labor situations for women in third world countries, you can find those. But here's the beautiful thing, Orion. We as even female investors, we do not have to support companies any longer that make profits that way anymore. So beyond just me deciding, let me have a different story attached to money and profits. Let me look at all these beautiful people that live in abundance and truly make the world a better place. I can become that too by simple decisions I make on a daily basis, how I use my resources in a budget that can actually bring me joy and happiness. And if I have the opportunity to give back, if I'm sitting at a charitable event and I want to write a check or have a family foundation to give, then I can make that happen. But I can also avoid putting my resources and my money into companies that do bad things. So now, and this is where we can align purpose and passions with profit on a very tactical, action-based, day-by-day basis, is to say my resources that I'd like to invest will not support bad companies. They will only go to companies that will actually support climate change and help fight climate change, that will not burn down a rainforest, right? That will invest in women-owned businesses in third world countries so they can provide for their families. So there are ways to do this, and we live in this core values-driven world now. But again, it's all about learning how to do this. And this is at Afflowent, we made the submission that yes, you can actually align your purpose and passion with your profits as well.
I love it.
And that profit is a good thing and not a bad thing.
Yeah. What you said reminds me of the reticular activating system, which means what we focus on, we will find. Like you said, what we'll focus on, we will find. If we look for a red Mini Cooper, we're looking to buy a red Mini Cooper, all of a sudden we go outside and we'll see lots of that car. So many red Mini Coopers. They just show up because we focus on it. We have so much information that goes into our brains every day, and our brains are so selective so we can survive and be protected and not overwhelmed. But when we give our brain the command of, oh, look for that red Mini Cooper, it will. Or look for the good in people. Or look for how I am good with making money. And then energy flows where your focus goes. You up-level your core beliefs and you up-level the actions that you take. And then you up-level whatever you get as far as money.
Exactly. And this is also about momentum, right? It's truly physics. It's where your thoughts go, the energy does flow.
Mm-hmm.
But we also, while we live in an evolving world that's changing for the better, is my personal belief,
Mm-hmm.
we also still live in a world where bad things happen, right? Or you simply turn on the news and you listen to talking heads on CNBC, right? It's so we are constantly bombarded. So we have to be very selective and say, who do I surround myself with? Where can I learn? And which community is going to help me become a better version of myself? And you and I know this because we're part of many beautiful communities that truly help us become better people.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the money world, I still think it's not easy. It's a very convoluted industry. There's a lot of information out there. But my goal with Afflowent and for our community is not more information, it's transformation. And the only way, Orion, we can transform is when we surround ourselves with people who are like-minded, who make it a mission to become better people, who are very serious about turning this profit game on its head and saying, I make a conscious decision to not support companies that do not align with my passion and purpose. But then it's also about learning how to. And so my mission with Afflowent there is to have this community where women can come and learn, but also be surrounded by other women And again, it's that momentum, right? If we all start focusing to choosing to see the red Mini Cooper and not the silver Chevy truck, right? Then that's what's going to happen. And bit by bit, we're all starting to become better people, better investors. We create abundance together, and we identify belief systems that no longer serve us. And we look to strategies to reboot the system, right? 0 to 7, heard something that's no longer serving me. Well, let's find a way to reboot, find a better strategy that's going to help me move forward.
What are some strategies that the listeners can implement today?
I would say anytime you notice a feeling, it always starts with feelings, right? And our bodies are the best indicators of something that's bugging us. So the next time you think about money, or the next time you think about, I really would love to buy this because it means something to me, and you start to have a feeling in your stomach, right? Or a feeling in your throat, or something that's just making you really uncomfortable, start journaling. Write down what exactly happened at the moment you started feeling really uncomfortable around the topic of money. And take yourself back to your childhood and say, how was I raised around money? What were the primary conversations around money as far back as I can remember? What happened to me throughout life? Sometimes it's we made a mistake, right? We're humans. But Orion, you and I know the opportunities are never in the past that way. The past is there for us to learn from, really briefly, and the opportunity is in the present and the future. So the only reason I say go back to the past is not to keep going over mistakes, and it's simply to say journal and see what kind of programming you received.
And sometimes it's also I don't believe in digging deep in the past, but I do believe in hypnosis, and I do believe in inner child work. And sometimes you can just go and talk to that little hurt child of yours that is you. So many ways to do an inner child meditation. You can also go on YouTube and find something that resonates with you, and just talk to that inner child and tell her or him, just tell her, like, you're okay, we're okay, or we're going to change this belief now. I'm with you, I'm strong, I'm healthy, you're safe.
Yeah. And tapping.
Oh, tapping is good.
I use tapping. Tapping is a really quick and easy way as well to just tap out certain beliefs and to forgive. Sometimes we grieve over mistakes we made, especially if we lost money on a decision that wasn't the best decision.
Yeah.
But when we, as Maya Angelou once said, bless her soul, right? When you know better, you do better. And so now it's a choice to say, okay, I'll leave this in the past. I'll forgive myself for anything that may have happened. I just didn't have the knowledge that I have now. And now let's move forward. There are many different strategies, but I think at the core, and everybody has very powerful, there's so many powerful strategies these days to shift belief systems and to shift habits as well. But I think this is where sometimes going back just a little and journaling about it helps, is to know and try to identify what some of these limiting beliefs are, and then we can move forward.
If somebody is clueless about wealth management and they want to take the first step toward that, they can, of course, connect with Afflowent and be in your group, in your movement. And before they do that, or if they just choose maybe to do something different, what is the first step they can take to be more educated about wealth management?
I'd say the first step is actually awareness. And it comes back to resources. For me to be aware and know, okay, how much money do I have? What does my balance sheet look like? What do I own? What do I owe? What do I spend money on each and every day and every month? And this is where I will give your listeners one tip. I've seen my fair share of budget resistance. And quite rightly so, because, a budget seems, oh, well, now I can only spend this much and there's nothing available. And budget becomes this really terrible thing and nobody wants to do it. But here's the thing. When we budget the right way, and again, it goes back to values, Orion, then think about how beautiful it would be if I look at my current expenses for the very first time in a long time, right? Because we don't make time to do that because it's an uncomfortable thing usually. But now I'm going to spend on a weekend, I'll set myself 2 hours aside and I'm going to look at every single expense, every streaming channel that I may not even use anymore, every gym membership that stopped, the gym closed down, but the expense still goes. And now I'm finding all these areas of money that was just like a drain was open. And I'm finding where money was just kind of going by the wayside without meaning anything to me. I've now identified this additional amount that can be set aside for things that absolutely mean something to me. And the next time now that I'm out there and I want to give to a charity, or I want to really buy myself something, or I want to buy my daughters something, and the money is there for that. Now think about how that's going to make us feel. We no longer feel scarcity. I don't have the money for it. We now actually feel, oh my gosh, this is so much joy. This is amazing how I feel now because I have the resource to do something that's meaningful to me. And this is how we shift through a simple budget exercise. We shift from scarcity to abundance right there. That's one of the first things I would recommend people do before they start thinking of investing and doing other things. Because going back to, you asked me earlier, what some of the wealthiest, abundant people do as a habit, many of them do not have to budget, but they still do. And the reason they do that is because they want to make sure that their hard-earned profits and money will go to places and people and events that actually mean something to them. Most of them are extremely philanthropic, and they will look at their resources and say, why would I spend it on this, and that I'm actually no longer using when I can donate it to a medical relief organization or a food bank, or I can send my kids through private school.
Is there a connection between wealth management to stress management?
Oh, okay. How much time do we have? Yes, there absolutely is. Money can be a huge stress factor in people's lives. We all know that. We've all been through it. And the more I am organized, the more I have a handle on my finances, the more I feel at ease, in flow, abundant, the less stress I have. When we do not pay attention to our money, when we just blindly maybe let other people invest, do something with our money, and I don't quite know what's happening, it causes discomfort that ultimately causes stress. So my goal, Orion, is to empower every one of your listeners to really take charge. And again, when a stress feeling comes up, and we always feel it in the body first, find a method of releasing that stress right away, but then also take the action that it takes to really uncover what caused that stress. Be aware of where your money is at, what it's doing for you. Be aware even how you're making money. When you have a business, right? You may have an accountant, you may have a bookkeeper, and you have this whole team assembled. But be part of that team. Sit on that same side of the table so that you can understand exactly what's happening to your money. Because the stress happens when there is an unknown, a not sure where my profits went this month, right? An unknown even in investing. I don't know what my investments are doing. Am I losing money? Am I gaining money? So when we spend a little bit of time getting educated and being part of the dialogue, all that will start alleviating stress.
And there's a lot of stress in the world today with COVID-19. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people are suffering. And if somebody is listening right now and they're in a bad place financially, what are some words of love and encouragement that you can share with them?
Oh, I think it's just believe in yourself, Yes, this past year and a half has been very difficult on so many levels. And also, Orion, because for the first time, we're not just fearing around money and losing jobs, but then we're also fearing health. And it's an unprecedented situation. There's been times in the past where we fear about money because there was a recession, right? Or we only fear about health, but this is really where it's a double whammy. And my heart goes out to every person out there, because we all have our own struggles. Mm-hmm. Everybody mm-hmm. has their own stress factors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I will say is always look at the silver lining. While COVID has been broadcasted as obviously a very negative event too, what I'm seeing is with my community, with clients, with my own family, is that it's an opportunity to dig deeper and to have a perspective. What is really important to me right now? Because one thing I will say, money is not the be all end all. Now is an opportunity to say, if you lost your job, how much did you actually love that job? And if you really, really were passionate, it was purpose, you will find another avenue to stay in that specific industry and to continue to be a shining light out there. If you lost a job, and this was a job where you simply just went through the motion because it gave you a paycheck and that paycheck paid the bills, I would say make this now an opportunity to really dig a little deeper and say, what would I like to be? Right? A friend of mine always says, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? And she's actually 55. Mm-hmm. And so there's always an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves.
That's beautiful. I think we all need to live like that, to have the child curiosity.
Right? The child curiosity. So have a little child curiosity. Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Those were amazing, beautiful words. I think everybody should just listen to that over and over again because it was so inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan.
Before we say goodbye for now, and I know we're going to have another episode with a process, beautiful process from you. Before we say goodbye for now, 2 questions. 1, what are your 3 quick tips to living a stellar life? And 2, where can people find you and join your movement?
The tips on a stellar life is just know you have choices. Be a lifelong student. We live on a learning planet. When we make choices, we can always reinvent. We can always become better people by every choice we make, by every action we take. And don't be afraid. Just believe in yourselves. As women, we can change the world, Orion. Yes. One career at a time, one choice at a time. It's all perspective.
Who runs the world, girls? Who runs the world, girls?
Exactly. Theme song of my life.
Amazing. Thank you. And where can people find you and join your extraordinary movement? And I know you have a surprise for our listeners as well.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. The way that people can find me is www.Claudia, first name, Sawaf, last name.com. That is our website for our community. We also have a group on Facebook that is ever growing. That's our growing movement, which is titled Afflowent. So when you think about affluent, right, all that means is money. And we know that that's not the end all be all, but to be affluent says that we can be affluent and be in flow and live in abundance. So when you go to Facebook, just look us up in the group section on Afflowent groups, and please join us. We'd love to have you. And the surprise that I have is I would like to invite, we talked a lot about taking actions, right? It's one thing to have an abundance mindset, but we also know where our thoughts go, the energy flows. And if we can support this with concrete action steps, we create positive momentum. And for that very reason, at Afflowent, I created a membership program to make sure that we stay connected, that we keep learning, and that every time something shows up, an uncomfortable feeling, we have next month's gathering with our community, with our group, to make sure we stay connected and we stay accountable and we keep taking positive actions and we never stop learning. And I invite your listeners to join our monthly, Afflowent monthly, Orion. And we actually have a super good surprise that with the coupon of Stellar Life, we actually invite your listeners for half off into our group.
Oh my God, half off. That's amazing. Wow.
For you, anything, Orion. For you and your beautiful listeners, we would love to get the learning process going and make sure that women feel empowered and can be empowered to live an affluent life.
That's beautiful. Well, wow. Thank you for your generosity. I really appreciate it. Half off, usually people are like, okay, 10% off, 15% off, half off. That's amazing. So thank you for your generosity. And thank you for being here. Thank you for your wise words. And thank you for sharing your beautiful heart with us.
Thank you, Orion. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And I can't thank you enough for doing what you do for every one of us out there to help us live just a stellar life, because that's our birthright.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. And thank you, listeners. Remember, you have choices, and be a lifelong student and believe in yourself, because you rock and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time. Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.